It's Corso and CATONE. Brought to you by CORSO Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Now for the real deal New England feel. Corso and CATONE.
Welcome into Corso and CATONE, the real deal, New England feel. I'm Corso. CATONE is here. Joe is with us in the booth, and you're watching us on YouTube, listening on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, 790 The Score in Providence, Rhode Island. And anywhere you podcast, you can pick us up and make sure you give us a call on heated hotlines, 855-313-PATS. Anything's on the table, leave us a message 24/7. Joe's going to pick the one he likes. Hey, and we're going to do some mailbag today, but Joe will pick the one that he likes most and let it be yours. So 855-313-7287 and the mailbag, corso.catone@gmail.com. We have one today. Hey, look, we got a good one in Pat's Nation. Now, listen, we're recording on Thursday pregame to the Pittsburgh Steelers to get to get this show to you on Saturday. We're recording on Thursday night, so the game hasn't happened yet. So you're going to have to see if Mark and I are right with some of the predictions of the things we're going to talk about.
Well,
we will
discuss. It saves us a little bit of misery talking about another loss.
Yeah, who the hell wants to talk about this Pittsburgh game tonight? But anyway, we are going to talk about that LA Chargers game and some of the general issues. And, of course, we'll go to our mailbag and heated hotline and Catone's comments. You never want to miss that. And Weekly Rewind, we're going to talk Providence College, Celtics, college football, and, of course, try to make you some money in Sunday spread. So, gentlemen.
Hey.
Thursday night football.
We're here. At least they didn't take us off a Thursday night like they did Monday night, Chris, right?
The lowest.
They didn't flex us.
The lowest. That's because they can't. The lowest over-under, in what?
Like 20 years?
Forever.
Forever.
It was like started at like 28 points, and then it's now up at 30.
They flexed Mahomes. Think about
that's a whole interesting thing there. How they flex Mahomes. That's how bad you are.
What's her fake? They could have had Taylor Swift just ask her to come to the game just to watch. Get people.
Listen, on a Monday night in Foxborough where she played a concert in Foxborough for 3 nights, she definitely would have showed up on a Monday night. So that's how bad the NFL thinks we are, Chris.
So, yes, it is. And speaking of bad, we're going to get to that Charger game and some other things. We're going to do it in Pat's Nation right now, Joe. So going back to the LA Chargers game, they lost that game 6-0. And then remind you, we're recording on Thursday night, so the Pittsburgh game hasn't happened yet. But 6-0. Yes, I said it right, Mark. 6-0. And then, even though we can't talk about the Pittsburgh result, hey, listen, it's all the same, Mark. I mean, it's all the same. The issues on defense or offense and defense, but getting started with the defense, okay? Because that's quick. They played well. They're playing well. I mean, now, they've allowed what? 10, and 0, I think it was the
10, and 6.
10 and 6, sorry. 10 and 6 over the last 3 games, and still coming up with a loss in this. But to break it down, to get, involved in it a little bit, the defensive front played well. They didn't play as well as they did against the Giants, in this game. No pressure on Herbert. That was the thing that surprised me the most that I didn't like. He was 22 of 37 for 212, but he only got hit once. So that is something that I was surprised. Now, the numbers, they only allowed 212 passing and 28 total yards rushing. So, I mean, they played the run really well, which you're going to have to against Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Because they ran for 130 yards on the Cardinals last week, the Steelers. Now, I know that Najee Harris is out, and so their backup is going to be playing, but he runs the ball pretty well, too. Who is that, Mark? That's
I think it's Warren. Warren. Yeah, and he does run the ball well himself, so.
So that's something they'll have to get geared up on, is to stop that run again. And the secondary, they were okay. I mean, I get the final score that you only allowed 6 points, but Herbert had a bad game, Mark.
Oh, he did. He did. He had a bad game, Chris. He missed guys that were wide open. And then a couple of his receivers, Chris, let's not give a perfect score to the secondary. He had guys open. They dropped balls, right in their hands. He had one guy open. He would have got him inside the red zone, inside the 10-yard line, Chris. They ended up kicking a field goal. They probably would have scored a touchdown. Receiver drops the ball, and the receiver probably would have ended up inside the 5-yard line, right in his hands. So, yes, he played bad. He missed guys, Chris. He was overthrowing guys. I don't know if the weather bothered him, but his receivers dropped balls that were right in their hands as well. So, yes, the defense played well, Chris, but I think the secondary, Chris, I still think was a little shaky because if he was on his game and the receivers made 2 or 3 catches that were in their hands, they scored more than 6 points.
Yeah, and
because of the secondary.
The difference in this, and that's why it looks weird, is the third down efficiency. See, the Patriots were getting off the field. You know, the Chargers were only 5 of 15 on third down. So that's there it is. So while there were times, and some of that again was Herbert. So but all in all, look, defense allows 10 points, 10.6 points. They're not the issue. They are not the issue right now.
No, they're not.
Earlier in the season, I would have said, hey, you know, they were barking up the wrong tree, talking about getting the ball back for the offense and all that, because they weren't getting off the field. They weren't winning on first down. They were allowing 16 play drives, 10 play. Remember, that's not happening anymore. Now these teams suck, but you know.
No, they do. We keep talking about how bad the coaching staff is, but you know what? Maybe Mayo and Belichick's son, we're going to give him a little credit. You're shaking your head, but
I don't want him as the head coach.
No. I'm not saying I want him as the head coach. However, Judon is out. Christian Gonzalez, arguably your 2 best defensive players, Chris, are out for the year.
They are the 2 best defensive players.
Right? Yeah. And your defense is holding their own, right?
Right.
They're holding their own.
You had to get rid of Jack Jones. Marcus Jones is out too. So they have some injuries. But Mark, let's get to the offense. And again, can't talk about Pittsburgh, but generally speaking, it's the same.
No. Well, no, Bailey Zappe provided a spot. Did he provide that spot, Chris? Everybody kept saying the spot. Week. Yes. He provided a spot. Well, that spot went out real quick. That's for sure. Right? Yeah. Real quick. So, Chris, here's my quick synopsis of Zappe. So the play gets called. Zappe gets to the line. There is absolutely no looking at the defense, making a change at the line of scrimmage, audibles, nothing. Whatever's called, he calls it, he runs it, makes his first look. Wherever that ball's supposed to go, Chris, that's where it's going. And if for some reason the guy doesn't look open, he immediately starts to move around back there, scramble out, try to run for yardage, or he throws the ball away. But he's not going through any progressions, Chris. I think the entire game I saw him go to a second receiver twice the entire game. I believe it was once to Parker and once to Schuster. The whole game, Chris, it's just one look. Is the guy there? Nope. Okay, I'm bailing out of the play. So, and you mentioned this, Chris, last week in the hotline. At least for Mac Jones, they take the training wheels off.
Right.
There were no training wheels off last week with this kid. Okay. And granted, don't get me wrong. We've talked about how bad the receivers are and everybody, Thornton wide open, balls in his hands, drops it. Right. Schuster and Thornton ran a couple of bad routes again, like they always do. But bottom line, Chris, Bailey Zappe stunk. Can't read a defense. He stunk. And that's why you scored 0 points. It's the same. The quarterback stinks. It's just, Ramondre Stevenson gets hurt. Elliott didn't run bad, but they just have nothing, Chris.
17
no
rushes,
skill.
52 yards.
Chris, they have no skill on offense. None. I don't know how many times we're going to say it, but Zappe's not the answer by no means, Chris.
No, it is. And even those deep balls he threw, okay, they're first reads, like you say. First read, balls out. First read, balls out. And if not, he moves around. Yeah, he gives you a little mobility back there so you can buy a little more time, but he's not reading anything. I mean, as you say, it's basic. And simply giving him props. Well, he didn't turn the ball over. Well, they didn't give him the opportunity to turn the ball over. Look at the numbers. He 13 to 25. He's 25 attempts, 32 rushes. That's Mac Jones. That's probably over 30 attempts. those numbers are reversed, are flipped, right?
Yeah. And the thing is, Chris, just real quickly before we end the segment on offense, what Jones does is at least Jones, Chris, goes to a second, third read and maybe tries to make a play, getting it intercepted, where this guy just runs out of there and doesn't even make the attempt. So, yeah, he throws no interceptions because he's not trying to do anything.
Yeah.
You know,
and so,
there's
Mark,
a difference. There's a difference.
So we can't, obviously we can't, the results are going to be happening with Pittsburgh, but let's see if we're right. What do you think? I mean, they're playing tonight, Pittsburgh, 6-point spread, 28 or 30 over under. How many sacks is Pittsburgh going to get tonight? How's Zappe going to look?
I think you're going to see four. Well, he does run out of there, Chris, but you're going to see 5 sacks. You might see a strip sack by TJ Watt. I don't think you're going to break the 50. I'd be shocked if they break the 50-yard line against this defense, unless your defense sets you up in a good position. Because Pittsburgh at home, Chris, they play defense really well. My prediction, you're going to score more points this week. 3. You get 3 this week.
I think Pittsburgh's going to actually score points this week. I think they're going to throw the ball. I know Trubisky stinks, but I honestly think they're going to score in the 20s. I think it's going to be like 24-6, some stupid thing like that.
Yeah, I agree with that, Chris. My prediction was like 20-6, something like that.
Yeah.
But
that over under's 30. They're going to hit that.
Yeah,
right
you're going to be hovering. You're going to be hovering right around 30.
Right in that number.
So is that your official pick? Oh, we're gonna wait to Sunday
Pittsburgh.
spread for that.
No, yeah, I'm gonna take Pittsburgh 24-6.
All right. So and I'm gonna take Pittsburgh too, but I'll give you my official score in Sunday spread. I want to think about it.
All right. So you make sure you call us, email us, let us know if we were right. The Pats Nation was presented by Corso and Catone, the real deal New England Field. Hey, noon to 1 Easterns on Saturday. Hey, sponsorships opportunity are available. You can email us at corso.catone@gmail.com to advertise on our show. Mark, wouldn't you love to have a good advertising read for one of these businesses out there?
I really would. I gotta have to start knocking on doors to get people to, give us something.
Look, you know what? If Mark can't sell it, nobody can sell it, Joe. Right?
That's true.
Right. So listen, it's sports.
Joe, show a little enthusiasm. That's true. What the hell was that?
That's all he says. So it's sports, it's passion, it's the real deal. New England Field, Corso and Catone, noon to 1 Eastern, Saturdays. Hey, when we come back, going to hear from one of you in the nation in Heated Hotline coming up.
Mark, I'm serious. I think I lost my mind.
Certainly, it was an exciting show.
I want Murray.
That's
crap
it. What is wrong?
Get him on this damn show.
You lost your mind tonight.
That's all I have to say.
Lost your mind.
What are you writing now?
So I'm working over here. You're talking about nonsense. I'm working.
That's why we are the real deal New England Field. It's going to be real.
That's the guy that's going to be doing the read. That nut job sitting over there right now. Mark, the one thing I wanted to bring up before we get to the mailbag on the Heated Hotline, the shutout 6-0. I wanted to give you a couple of points. The first team since 1938 to allow 10 points or less in 3 straight games and lose all 3 of them. Okay, since 1938, which was
1938. Okay.
I don't even think they had helmets. Scored 7 points or less in 5 of 12 games, most in the NFL. 0 touchdowns in 13 of 24 halves this season, including 6 of the last 7. 12 something per game, points per game, 3rd worst in franchise history. Yeah. So let's see what you people think out there in the nation and Heated Hotline, Joe.
Our first mailbag. Well, actually, this is not the first one, but
For the 790 listeners.
790 listeners. Here we go. He writes, "Hi guys, it's Sal from Providence. Love the show. I can't believe defensive tackle DFT Godchaux actually called out the offense, specifically Thornton and Parker. Belichick has clearly lost the locker room because that is not the Patriot way. What do you guys think?" I thought this was good because he did. It's hard right there. It's true.
Well, thank you for the email, Sal. That's our friend Sal from Providence. Oh no, wait a minute. This is different Sal. Isn't Sal the
other
from
Sal
East Providence typically?
He's from East Providence. That's a different Sal. Yeah,
new Sal. A lot of Sals back there.
A lot of Sal's back here.
A lot of Sals. Mark, this was a big deal. I mean, when have we ever heard When have we ever heard team players calling out other players
Never.
on a Patriots team?
As far as Belichick has been the coach, Chris, I don't know if it happens. Have you ever? I don't remember it ever happening.
I can't remember that happening. As blatant and just owned it too. I mean, give him credit. He's right. I mean,
he is right.
He's dead right. I can't look if I'm on a defense and this is what's going on, and it's just more and more pissed off. And I'll give the defense credit, Godchaux and company. They're still bringing it. They're still coming. I mean, we thought by now they would have quit.
Yeah,
they haven't quit. The effort's there.
They haven't
Even
quit.
on offense, the efforts they just stink.
So, Chris, but let's talk about this for a minute now. So he makes those comments. Now, this is after Belichick's press conference. Mike Reese asked him specifically about what's the cause for the lack of production on offense, and Belichick gives it his typical heavy breathing and says, "I don't know." And then he asks him another question about the offense, and he says, listen, he asks him another question about the offense, and he says, well, I already answered that question. Well, we're going to talk about what happened in the game and next week. We're not talking about, I already answered that. And his answer was, I don't know. So Belichick is not even mentioning or talking about the offensive struggles, but yet he's got a player calling out guys by name. Not even saying, oh, we gotta catch more balls. We got to run better routes. No,
he called out Thornton
and Parker by name.
Called out Thornton for missing that catch. We got to catch those balls. And Parker, we can't catch the ball out of bounds. We can't land out of bounds. Wow. And Parker's a vet. Parker's a veteran. Parker's a guy.
So talk about
bigger than him. So
but my point in bringing this up is talk about two different takes. Belichick, well, I don't know. And Godchaux's actually calling out guys. So how do you think that sat with Bill?
Not good.
Especially based on his press conference answer.
Not good. Obviously not good. But I mean, at this point, I don't, because typically with something like this, Godchaux would be benched. You wouldn't see him anymore. You go into the doghouse.
Yep.
But I think Belichick is so far into the doghouse himself at this point that I don't even think he
cares
anymore. Yeah, or registers with him anymore because there's so much wrong that he's trying to figure out that. And you know what, Mark? When he talks in that press conference, he says things like, I don't know. I don't think he does. For the first time in the whole run, I really think he's lost for answers. He doesn't have them. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't understand what to do. I don't think he does. He can still come out from a defensive side of the ball and both sides and say to them every week, hey, this is what we need to do to win. If we do this, if we do this, if we do this, we can win this game. If we prevent this from happening, we can win this game. And Pepper said that this week too, talking about Belichick, that they're letting him down. He gives them the formula, he gives them the blueprint, and they can't execute it. I still believe that. That's why I still think he's the best coach-wise. I do. He just doesn't understand personnel. He doesn't understand today's player. He can't relate to these guys, Mark. He doesn't know how to handle them anymore. He doesn't know. That's it. I mean,
yeah. So it's going to be interesting because you're right, Chris, because in the old days, Godchaux would have showed up with a limited participant, a hamstring, and you wouldn't have saw him playing this week because that would have been his punishment.
Right.
For talking to the press like that. But I bet you he's on the field tonight. He'll be on that field tonight. Absolutely.
Yeah, because okay. So the caller makes the writer makes a good point. But
locker room. Do you think he lost the locker room? Let's answer his main point of that email. Did he lose the locker room?
I don't think he's lost the locker room in the sense of they won't play for him, they won't try. I don't think so because I've seen the effort. The effort's there.
Okay.
I think he's lost the locker room in the sense of this guy's not putting talent on the field. It's clear, it's obvious, the decisions he's making on personnel are now trickling down to the players. And the players are now seeing it and saying, who the hell are these guys? What'd you say about Brady when N'Keal Harry, when he threw him the ball the first time?
From what was reported, Chris, the third throw to him in mini camp early, like in March, he looks at McDaniels like, you drafted him? He stinks. Like that was bad. And he kind of got into it a little bit with Josh, like get him off the field.
Like who drafted
That's how
this
bad
guy?
Harry was. That's how bad Harry was.
Right.
And
so
we drafted him.
Right. And so my point is, that's Brady's back in 19 saying, who the hell drafted this guy, calling out basically Belichick and seeing it. That's Brady.
Yep.
Fine. You now have guys that are way further down in the food chain that are seeing it, that are basically calling out saying, our players stink.
And by the way, Parker's new contract gave him $14 million guaranteed, just for the record. I just want to throw that out there while we're talking about how bad he looks.
How much did DeAndre Hopkins make this year?
I think his overall contract, if he got every incentive, was only 15. How's that, Chris?
But wasn't it Parker this last game who made it only look like Zappe actually did have a little bit of spark? Yeah, he made a few nice catches, and that was it, though. It was only him, wasn't it?
Yeah, but the stuff he's catching, Joe, is like lateral throws, wide receiver screens. Like every so often he gets a little separation, and that's just because they're running zone against him. This is not a guy that's getting separation on one-on-ones. And that throw down the sideline, that 50-50 ball, you're fine. He's good for stuff like that. But he can't come down in bounds, throws out of bounds. I mean, it's just these guys suck, Mark.
Yeah, they do. They do. Listen, I'm glad you said it, but they do suck. Chris, listen. So, I guess I agree with you, Chris. I don't necessarily know if Belichick's lost the locker room, like you said, because Sal, I appreciate the email, but I don't know if he lost the locker room because of the effort we are seeing on the defensive side of the ball. And even on offense, Chris, I think guys like Ramondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott are giving you effort. I think your receivers, I think Schuster has dogged it at times, but I think your receivers are giving you effort. To keep Mario Douglas, who's out injured, gives you effort every week. It's just your roster stinks. Your offensive line stinks.
You put any blame on Billy O? How much?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely, I do. Positively, I do. How much he should be fired too.
Any
other
offensive coordinator, you and I have thought on this a little bit about
I get rid of him. I understand we have a lack of talent, but I still think his offense is in the past. His type of scheme is in the past. I want the guy from the Lions, the offensive coordinator from the Lions. I want one of these guys that's just who runs all kind of crazy stuff all over the field and who actually brings in players that can run it, Chris.
I think he's handcuffed some. I do. I think he's handcuffed some, but I also think it's archaic too. I mean, I think it all has to go. It's sad. It's a sad thing for me to say all this. It was sad when Brady left because you wanted these guys to finish here. It's just what you hope is that somehow there can be some miracle where Belichick can wake the hell up and say, hey, I don't know how to pick guys. I don't know how to put talent on. I don't know what type of guy to put on this team to make this offense right. Let me put these guys underneath me that can do it, that can understand it. You would love, right, Mark? You would love to see that happen, to him to say, we got a GM that's picking guys. We got new age guys picking players. We got a whole new offense. We're doing what Miami does. I'll focus. I'll talk to these guys, generally speaking, and just run the ship. You hope something like that can happen, but that's
not going to happen. That's wishful thinking. And Chris, just real quick. So you want to talk about Belichick, right? And what he taught, even teaches the guys that work under him, Chris. It was reported this week, and this will be a 30-second thing.
It's all right.
The GM, Dave Ziegler, Raiders, was with us, goes out to Vegas, wants to trade up for the number 2 pick. He knows it's going to be Stroud. He loves Stroud. He's got the deal in place and the package in place. And McDaniels X's it. McDaniels says, no. I would only trade up if I could get Bryce Young. McDaniels has Bryce Young rated higher than Stroud. Ziegler was in love with Stroud, had the package ready to go and pull the trigger, and McDaniels blocks it because McDaniels is archaic, just like Belichick. His talent review is just as bad as who his boss was for all those years, Chris. And unfortunately, the scenario you just described of bringing in guys under him is never going to happen. And it is sad, Chris. It's sad. And you know what? I think if Belichick got enough wins under his belt and he could have broke Schuler's record next year, I think Kraft would bring him back to say,
well,
hey,
I still think he's coming back.
But the thing is this, Chris, in order for him to break the record now, you're going to win 2 games.
He needs like 3 years.
He's going to be here at least 2 years. And if you stick next year, he might have to be here 3. You can't keep him here that long.
I don't think he's going to be here 3 years, but I think he's going to be here next year. I think he's going to go till his contract's over. I think Kraft has developed the kind of relationship with him for 20 years where he's going to give him the end of the contract. And I think Kraft's too cheap to not pay it. If he has to pay, Belichick's never going to quit. He's never going to leave on his own because he knows that he's getting that $25 million. He knows he's getting the money. He's never going to walk out that door on his own. He won't do it.
Chris, so I really want to know.
It's really interesting offseason.
How is Kraft going to sell that to the season ticket holders? He sent you that BS letter last year. What's he going to send you this year?
He's going to have to take it on the chin. He's going to have to put the egg on his face to bring back Belichick. He's going to have to come out and say, this is just as much my fault. We have a relationship. We're going to fix this together. That's the only way. And even then, nobody's going to want that. Everybody.
Listen, a poll came out today. Chris.
Players.
Listen, a poll. They did a thing on a survey today on Twitter or something. One of these NFL writers. Guess what? Nobody wants Belichick, Chris. Everyone keeps saying, "Oh, there's going to be 10 teams lined up." That's coming from Adam Schefter, who's Belichick's mouthpiece. Belichick feeds him tidbits, and he's out there trying to get a market for Belichick. Chris, it's going to be like Brady. At the end of the day, nobody is going to want Belichick. There'll be a couple, but they're not going to be places. Do you really think Brady wanted to go to Tampa? No, he made it work. He won there. But being the head coach is different than being the quarterback, Chris.
Yeah.
I don't know if Belichick's going to want to go to a team that he's going to win 2 games with again next year.
Well, so we'll see. But so, Sal, we appreciate the email. And has he lost the team? I don't know. I mean, he's definitely lost a sense of reality of what the NFL is and what it's about. Has he lost the guys in the locker room? Maybe not.
He lost me. He lost me. Yeah, he lost me after he got rid of Brady, but he definitely lost me now.
He lost you a long time ago. So Heated Hotline was presented by CORSO Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. CORSOLawGroup.com. Allow us to be your voice. Hey, buckle up. We come back and Toad's comments right after this.
No one ever thinks they will be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. CORSO Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Call or go online to CORSOLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help.
Time for CATONE comments!
Listen, it's December, 7th, 8th, 9th? I don't even know what the date is. Baseball ended at the first week of November. It's free agency. Does anybody care? Does anybody even know what's going on with baseball? Listen, you know I'm a die-hard baseball guy. What the Major League Baseball does with their offseason is an absolute sin. A sin. What baseball is, they're out of touch. They're just out of touch. Basketball even has their free agency period around the 4th of July week, and they make a big thing of it. And when they do have 2 or 3 stars that are available, it's all over. They've got it on, they're promoting it on NBA TV, and they got 24 hours of free agency news, and it's a big thing. NFL is crazy, right? The NFL frenzy, right? Free agency frenzy, and they've marketed that like there's never been marketed before. Baseball wonders why it's dying. You couldn't tell me one guy that was signed recently. You couldn't tell me who was signed, who's a free. Okay, other than Ohtani, You couldn't even tell me who the free agents are because it's just not marketable. It's not promoted. Nobody cares. Baseball dies the day the World Series ends. And then all of a sudden, in maybe May, it's baseball season again. There's not in between. It is the worst marketed sport that you could possibly have. And I don't understand it. It's supposed to be the nation's pastime. Yeah, it is pastime because nobody cares about it anymore. Now, the reason I bring this up is because my New York Yankees had a good week. They had a good week, and I'm going to promote baseball this week. Me. The Yankees traded for Juan Soto, somebody we desperately needed. My prediction, he'll hit over 40 home runs with that right field porch. He'll be an MVP candidate if he stays healthy this year with that right field porch. Okay, they gave up a little bit of some prospects. Screw the prospects. Oh, he's a top 100 player. He's number 13 pitcher in our farm, rated overall prospect in our farm system. Those guys never pan out. I don't remember the last time the Yankees had a pitcher come out of their farm system that ended up in their rotation. Not as a reliever, but a bona fide 15 or 20 game winner in their rotation. Screw the prospects. Trade them. Get rid of them. Bring in viable MVP talent like George Sr. used to do. Maybe the son finally, the light bulb went off. Next week, they're meeting with the pitcher from Japan, that Japanese pitcher. Bring him in. Doesn't matter what it's going to cost. Bring him in. Open up the checkbook. Because now at least there's a little bit of excitement with the Yankees. They traded for Verdugo from the Red Sox. They gave the Red Sox a bunch of trash. The Red Sox took it because nobody. Listen, at least there's some excitement with the Yankees. But Major League Baseball has to do something to fix themselves. It's disgraceful. This is supposed to be the off season. They're supposed to generate some sort of excitement to get you to, say, "Oh, I can't wait for baseball season to start." Nope. That's why football is king. And basketball has become second. And then hockey and baseball are like afterthoughts now. But yet the Red Sox and Yankees, their tickets are as high as anybody in any pro sport. But the Yankees, Chris, had a good week. They had a good week. That's all I can tell you.
And that's what
Those are all the baseball fans.
Joe.
There it is. Yeah, listen, how long do you think he's been waiting to use that line about past time? Huh?
See, he's selling his voiceover work. I love it.
That's why. Hey, advertisers need to come on this show. Look at Mark comes up with pearls like that. The pastime. The Verdugo trade is interesting because, because from a Red Sox perspective, for a second, this is because that was probably Cora's. He disliked him probably more than anyone else, right?
Of course he did. Yep.
So getting that, because they got nothing for him.
No.
That had to be Cora going to the GM. What the hell's the name? What's his name again? GM.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Now you got me. Now I'm talking about baseball, and I forgot.
But he had to have gone to him and say, "Hey, you know what?" So it tells you who's really running the team. So he had to go and say, "Hey, I want this guy. Get rid of this guy. I don't like him." Right?
Absolutely, he did. Positively.
So Mark, you're right. O'Halloran, right? Isn't that who it is?
Yeah, Brian O'Halloran.
Oh, Breslow.
Brian Breslow. Craig
Breslow. This is how bad it is. This is how right Mark is. We don't even know. We're doing this show. We're doing a sports show, Joe. We don't even know who the hell the GM of the
it's a shame
right
what
now.
What has happened with baseball, Chris. It's a shame. However, the Yankees, I know you wanted to mention Verdugo because that was a Joey Cora move, right? But
so does this so when you're talking about the moves that the Yankees are making, because they're my Yankees too, they're Joe's Yankees. I'm a We're Yankee fans. That's who we are. Just because we're from New England, I get it. Give us all kinds of crap. But you know what? 790 listeners, you like the Yankees. You're watching the Yankees, right? I mean, isn't they carrying the Yankees? We're carrying the Yankees games, right, Mark?
Yeah, come on.
So, hey, listen. But is this team going to solve the problem with what they're going to do? Are they going to solve their problem of creating some more small ball, not relying on that deep ball? And the LeMahieu's and these kinds of guys that are on this team that were on this team that
No, this didn't solve that problem, Chris. It added another home run bat to the lineup. Although Soto can hit for average, he can hit doubles and triples, but he's another home run bat. But at least, Chris, he's a younger player who adds a little bit of excitement. I think Verdugo, Chris, adds a little bit of that small ball element. The guy they, believe it or not, Chris, that they got in the deal with Soto, Grisham, who's a center, plays outfield, can play all three outfield positions. He's a single, double, stolen base type of a guy. He struggled last year a little bit, but typically he does do that. So, I think, Chris, the young guys that the Yankees brought in last year, the shortstop Volpe will do that. He'll get better as he gets a little bit older. I think you got to get the kid back, Dominguez. He's going to be an absolute stud. He's going to be a 30-30 guy, probably 40-40. He'll steal 40 bases and hit 40 home runs. So he'll be able to produce runners and movement for you. I mean, he's injured, but he'll be back probably in July or August. So, listen, just the fact that they're willing to do something, Chris, that's how desperate I am. It makes me happy.
Sleeping through it is. It's getting to be unwatchable. I got to be honest. Arizona in the World Series was cool, but nobody watched that.
Who watched Arizona except you?
Oh no, nobody watched that. So, Mark, we'll see what happens as the free agents goes. I don't think half the people out there probably didn't realize free agency was going on. To your point, so good point, Mark. Catone's comments was presented by Corso and Catone, the real deal. New England Field, Saturdays, 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern. Hey,
I hate to interrupt you, but next week.
You love to interrupt me. What are you talking about?
I have to interrupt you. Listen, next week, everybody tune in. It's going to be my holiday special, Catone's comment. Tune in next week.
God help us all. So all the shows are up for you to watch, listen to on YouTube, 790 The Score, iHeartRadio. So make sure you tune in 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern. Hey, when we come back, Weekly Rewind is next.
Mark, I'm serious. I think I lost my mind.
Certainly, it was an exciting show.
I want Murray.
That's
it.
What is wrong with you?
Get him on this damn show.
You lost your mind tonight.
That's all I have to say.
Lost your mind.
What are you writing now?
So I'm working over here. You're talking about nonsense. I'm working.
That's why we are the real deal New England Field. It's going to be real.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal New England Field. Hey, Mark, I've been last two shows have been pretty calm, if you've noticed.
You have been calm. What the heck? What are you doing
pills?
over there?
New pills you're taking?
Joe's giving me some relaxation exercises, things to do, to breathe.
Listen.
I think maybe I've just accepted that these guys here, that I'm pointing to my shirt. I got the old logo blue Patriot shirt on. For those of you listening on the radio and iHeart, I don't know. I think maybe I've just accepted the fate.
Yeah. Listen, I tried those breathing exercises. I did all that. It lasted about a week.
Mark made a New Year's resolution.
Oh, you're going to bring this up again.
Do you remember that? Joe, there was for those of you on 790, you haven't heard this. He had a New Year's resolution. He was going to be calm. Remember, Joe?
I remember.
And we did a show I don't know, the day after. And how long did that last?
Because it was probably because of one of your ridiculous comments. You set me off.
It was like 5 minutes into the show, and he lost his mind, completely lost his mind. But I've been calm, Mark. I've been very calm.
You have been calm.
It riled me up a little bit more.
I'm going to make the same resolution this year, but this time I'm going to stick to it. This year,
okay.
You watch.
We'll see. That's a challenge for Joe and I now to get you going. So, but let's go back. Let's look at the week that was in Weekly Rewind, Joe.
I'm getting it. Going back through the week. About a weekly rewind.
So, Mark, a few things we want to get to this week. You talk about Celtics, college football, and so on. But, you know, Mr. PC Fryer here, the alumnus, basketball. They've been playing pretty good. They've had some tough games now. They've had some tough opponents, I should say, in the last several games. What do you make of this team? Because it's hard. When you watch this team, it's kind of a mixed bag. I'm looking at what they're doing, and I'm looking at the difference between last year and the fit. It seems like there's an issue with the fit, Mark.
Yeah. So they've played, Chris, pretty much 3 non-conference games, pre-conference games before the Big East starts that are worth anything. They played Kansas State, they played Wisconsin, and they've played Oklahoma, who they just played this week. And they're 1-2 in those games against bona fide competition. The rest of these teams are just schedule fillers. And I know they had the big rivalry with URI last week at University of Rhode Island, and we beat them. But URI is really not that good of a team. They're rebuilding, right? And that guy's trying to build a program down there. Chris, you're right. The fit, right? So when Kim English takes over the program, I mean, everybody was going to go into the portal, allegedly. He got guys to stay because he didn't want the roster to be at like 0. Those were Cooley guys. They fit Ed Cooley's system. Cooley had a system, and to Ed's credit, the system worked, Chris. They made NCAA tournaments. They won Big East championships. So to Ed's credit, his system worked. But it's not Kim English's system. So he's trying to fit guys into an offensive system and defensive scheme that he didn't necessarily recruit. They're not perfect fits, but you know, they've played okay, and they've played okay even in these tougher games in spots. But they got 2 guards, Chris, Jaden Pierre and Gawe Dual, who's a freshman, who are supposed to be able to dribble, drive, finish, dish, do some different things, shoot off the dribble. And they've really struggled against good competition doing that. And you noticed something the other night in that Oklahoma game, and you were like calling me saying, Mark, what the heck's going on? And why don't you tell us what you noticed? You said it was glaring to you.
You know, looking at dribble penetration, things like that, you know, and I was liking it to the Celtics a little bit, right? When I was talking about, okay, what's their penetration like? What's their play recognition? You know, getting into set offenses. It seemed like at various points of the game, they get into that chucking mentality. You know, come down, chuck it up, 3-pointer, no offensive sets. And then when there be some dribble penetration, I don't know if it's a lack of talent, if it's just they're not at the level they should be, these guards, but they would penetrate the lane and not know where to go with the ball. Like Jaylen Brown, like off the knee, dribble off the leg, get caught down low in a double, and things like that are happening. And the other thing, that sort of stood out to me. And defensively with this team, the rotation defense isn't good. Yeah. You know, you'd see penetration, kickouts, guys, they just weren't buzzing around on defense, rotating over and things like that. And then they got stagnant on offense. Not that we keep flipping back and forth, but stagnancy on offense where there was a play where they were inbounding the ball into the basket and everybody was just standing there. And they had a violation. They couldn't get the ball in on time because there was no movement. There was nobody going to him. So I'm wondering, is that just a chemistry thing this early on, or is the coach just not getting through at this point?
I think it's a chemistry thing, Chris. I think they got some new pieces, some old pieces. They're learning a new system. He took them to Europe for a couple of games over the summer to try to build some camaraderie and to try to get them in sync. I think that'll come. I do think, though, they're going to be inconsistent on offense as far as 3-point shooting all year. I think there'll be games that they get hot and they'll beat teams that maybe they weren't supposed to beat. And then they're going to lose to teams that they should beat because of that inconsistency. And I think that was a problem with Ed Cooley's teams. They were inconsistent from the outside shooters. I think English has many of those guys still on the team. So you're going to continue to see that inconsistency of outside shooters until he totally brings in, I think, his group of guys that fit his system, because his system does depend on guys that can hit shots from the wing, from the 3-point line, pressure, full court, up and down the court. This team is not there yet. And the other thing, Chris, with the half-court set, Bryce Hopkins, who's supposedly a preseason All-Big East player, when he plays against a team, Chris, that has maybe a little bit of a smaller but very quick defender, he struggles to get spacing in the ball. And a lot of times when you watch a lot of these games, Chris, the offense flows through Hopkins and it flows through Josh Adoro, the center.
Yeah.
In around when Hopkins struggles, the flow of the offense struggles. And that's happened in all three of those games, pretty much. That's why they're 1-2 in those games.
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, pay attention. We got our PC expert here, our Fryer expert. Listen, we'll see if it's a matter of coaching or if it's a matter of talent, because they're in these games and then they fade. So pay attention throughout the season. And Mark, switching over to the Celtics this week. So they lost the in-tournament game against Indiana. Were you, I mean, and I got the numbers here. Were you surprised by that? Because I watched the way the bench, this is something you brought up. Okay, there's two things. You brought up the bench for the Celtics. How is the bench going to be in a playoff situation when it's tight? And for all purposes, this was a playoff situation. I mean, that place was rowdy. It was fired up. It's basically the playoffs. You know, quarterfinals to the in-season tournament to go to Vegas, and the bench had nothing. 15 points off the bench. 21 points off the bench. Meanwhile, the Pacers. You know, the Pacers had two players with 14, 16 points. So, were you surprised?
A little bit, Chris, and I'm going to tell you why. I was surprised, and I'll tell you why. The Celtics, Chris, fell back into – now, listen, Porzingis is not there.
Yeah.
Porzingis, I think, will be a difference maker.
Let's
qualify that. The guy they traded for to be the difference maker is not enough.
You're already making excuses, Joe. He's already making excuses, talking about Porzingis wasn't there. And see, now I'm not calm anymore. Here
the real deal way. It's the real deal way. Nothing but excuses.
Mr. Excuse. Go ahead.
Joe, I'm not making an excuse. He won't let me make my damn point. So, listen, Porzingis isn't there, so I'm making an excuse. What I was going to say until I was rudely interrupted is that they went back to the Boston Celtics of last year and the year before, Chris. They allow the other team to punch them in the mouth. They can't punch back. The other team dictated pace. You played their game. You're running up and down the court. You're chucking. You traded for Drew Holiday. Let Drew Holiday take control of the ball. If they would have slowed the game down, Chris, and got that team into a half-court game, that team had no ability at all to guard you. Tatum and Brown and Holiday and White. If you slowed that down to a half-court game, you would have beat that team. Chris, Indiana couldn't play defense. They just wanted to go up and down the court and take a shot within 5 or 6 seconds.
Yeah,
and the Celtics,
they ran them out of the building.
The Celtics fell into the trap, Chris. But listen, you brought in veteran coaches to help Mazzulla. Call a goddamn timeout and say, guys, listen, slow the ball down, play half court, and we got this team. Instead, Mazzulla stands there and lets them keep blowing up threes.
Yeah.
So it's back to Mazzulla. It's back to the style of play, just like it was before.
Yeah. Again, that's why I keep asking the question. Is Mazzulla the right guy for this team? Is he the right guy to take this team to a championship? Because he allows these guys, he allows moments like that to happen, and before you know it, you're out of the game now. You know? And again, my whole point to the bench is look, in this game, okay, Tatum had 32 points, Jaylen Brown had 30. Okay? My whole point with but when you go to the bench, Hauser had 15, and that was it. You had Pritchard had no points in 15 minutes. You had Cornette had 6 points in 17 minutes. Okay? So, to me, when you get Porzingis back, I keep saying it, and I'm going to say it all friggin' season long. Bring Jaylen Brown off the bench then. Bring him off the damn bench. Let him be your sixth guy. Let him score 30 points off the bench. What the hell? He'll get his numbers. He's got his money. Tell him to shut up and do it. Because you get outplayed by their bench. That shouldn't be happening. You don't need those two guys on the court at the same time. You don't need Tatum and Brown on the court at the same damn time. You don't need it. So because it's the same stuff. It's just dribbling off the knee, speeding things up. The game's too fast for him. He doesn't know where to go with the ball. When things are happening, you're right. They play. And again, the coaching, like you said. So I'm with you. I don't know if Mazzulla is the right fit over here. To me, it should be, hey, you know what? Put this guy on because you got a window with this team.
Yep.
Put this guy, and I get their record is solid. It's strong. It's not, there's no reason to fire him or anything. But I don't know if I'd rather see Cassell in charge of this thing.
Well, I got news for you, Chris. If they don't win a championship this year and they don't at least make it to the finals, if they get knocked out in the Eastern Conference playoffs again, I think you're going to see somebody like Cassell be the coach because I think Mazzulla will be gone. Because to your point, Chris, you have a window with this team. Now, and the reason I bring up last year, Chris, in Mazzulla is because do we honestly think Porzingis is going to be there in June with his history of injuries? And if he's not, because he's got a hamstring out, a calf, a knee, or something, if he's out, so you're going to have the same team you had last year plus Drew Holiday.
With an older Horford. With an older
Horford. You're going to have the same team plus Drew Holiday. Is that enough for you to win a championship?
You're going to have to go get a big.
Without Porzingis?
No, you're going to have to go get a big at the trade deadline. You're going to have to get a big. You're going to have to do that. We talked about that in the offseason. Calling me rude. You're the modicum of politeness all of a sudden, Mr. CATONE.
Modicum with these words. I can't.
Yeah.
Joe, he thinks he's in the courtroom, Joe. He's using big words now, Joe.
I know.
So, okay. So let's move, Mark. Let's move. The other story I wanted to talk about real quick is college football. So the college football playoffs are set. It's going to be Florida. It's going to be, where am I? Florida State.
No, they're out.
Michigan, Washington, Texas, Alabama. Michigan, Washington, undefeated. Texas and Alabama, one loss. Number 5 is Florida State, who was undefeated. Did they get screwed, Mark, or what?
Yeah, they got screwed. I understand the quarterback's out. I get it. And they struggled in their conference championship game, which they did win. The backup quarterback didn't play in that game, so they're using a third-string quarterback. They win 16-0. Okay. But the team, Chris, went undefeated for the entire year. So you don't even honor that or give them credit for that. I understand they got injuries, but Jesus Christ, they're undefeated. Let them roll. Maybe their defense can win for them. Their defense won their championship game. How do you screw a team that's come from a power conference, Atlantic Coast Conference? They got Clemson and all those teams in there, and you screwed them. Listen, I get Alabama. Alabama beat Georgia. There has to be an SEC team in there. It's the best conference in America. And because Alabama lost to Texas, in order to put Texas in, you had to put Alabama in. So Florida State was the odd team out. There's nothing. You had to have an SEC team in there, Chris. You had to have Alabama. They beat Georgia. What are you going to do? If the NCAA was praying Georgia won, because then it would have made things a little easier for them. Well, Georgia's undefeated. There, Washington's in, Michigan's in,
and then that's
Texas
how you know.
In.
That's how you know. See, that's how you know it's about the dollars and cents. That's how
Of
you
course
know.
it is.
Because you don't screw a team because somebody got hurt. You don't screw a team over because that's the reason. Don't give me the 16-0 issue that the score of that game. It was the fact. It's the fact that what's this team going to look like in the playoffs? Is this going to be a marketable game? Is it going to be something that we can sell to the fans? When we put on the TV, the what do you call that, Joe? A thumbnail, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it shows like the still shots of the players. Who are you going to put? You can't put anybody on the Florida State side. The quarterback's not there.
No, and he was the
I mean?
face of the team. Yeah.
So this is the issue, and it's a money thing, and it does piss you off. Hey, look, it's not their fault. They play who they play. These are the teams you put in front of us, and we took care of them all. And as much as I like Alabama, I want Alabama. And Notre Dame's but
my team. That's our team.
But I like Alabama, and if I want to see Alabama in there, but I'm going to tell you something right now. I don't think Alabama can hang with these teams. From what I've seen this year out of them, I know they beat. I get what they beat Georgia. I get it. Okay, I get that happened. But has Alabama shown you all year long?
They haven't. But I will tell you. But they haven't. But I will tell you this.
And is that the team that Florida State should have kicked out? Should it have been Alabama or Texas?
Well, it would have had to have been Alabama, Chris.
No, because Texas
they lost to Texas.
Yeah,
They lost to
Texas.
Listen, Nick Saban, and I can't believe I'm saying this, the Bill Belichick of college football will outcoach Harbaugh, and they'll beat Michigan.
You
because
can
he'll
outcoach Harbaugh. I can't stand Harbaugh. Harbaugh's a jerk. He's a jerk. He was a jerk when he played for the Colts, number 4. Screw Harbaugh. I can't stand the entire Harbaugh family. Go away now. Go away, John Harbaugh. Oh, you see him on the TV. He's bitching and complaining at the calls. What? You're calling it against the Raiders? Right, don't get me going. You ought to say Harbaugh. You ought to mention that stiff.
All right. Well, hey, listen, Chris, I tried. Anyway, so listen, Florida State, we agree, kind of got screwed. It's about the money.
Yeah.
They got screwed. What are you going to do? But my prediction for the college, and we'll get closer to college football playoff, is Alabama, I think, will win, and I think Washington will beat Texas. I think that'll probably be your final, but we'll see how that plays out.
We will see, and we'll have lines when that time comes. We'll have spreads, and speaking of spreads, let's get into Sunday spread, Mark, right now. Look, talk about that Patriots game that's going to go off in a little while. That's a 6-point game, 28-30 point over-under. We already kind of gave our prediction there. What do you got for locks, Mark, this week?
For locks,
make people some Christmas.
Listen, I had a bad week last week. Bad week. Yeah, 2 in a row. I had bad weeks. Listen, take the points with Philadelphia because I'm still. I every time Dallas plays a good team, Chris, they lose. Philadelphia is not going to lose 2 in a row. They go into Big D, and Philly's going to beat them. I think Philly's getting like 3.5, 4 points. Take Philly at home. Take Kansas City at home, giving the points to Buffalo. Kansas City's not losing 2 in a row. I think they're 2.5 point favorites.
It was
Kansas
a point
City,
and a half, 1.5 as of Thursday.
Kansas City and Philadelphia are my 2 locks. Take it to the bank. They're locks.
I had Kansas City as well, but I had 3 of them just in case you took mine. But I'm with you on Kansas City and Philly. Dallas isn't that huge of a home field advantage and all that. Philly's going to wipe the field with that team. You look at a game nobody really cares about, probably Minnesota at the Raiders. Okay. And this is where you can bet these games where Vegas knows people don't really care about these games. Well, Minnesota is the Raiders are getting 3 at home. And I love them as home dogs. They're home underdogs. They're getting 3 against Minnesota. I don't know what to make of Minnesota, Dobbs, and all that. I think Vegas will win that game at home. I think defensively they'll have a good showing against the Minnesota offense. And so that's one I like. And then Carolina at Baltimore. I think Baltimore is just going to absolutely dismantle the Panthers. And it's a 7.5 point spread as of Thursday. Keep checking the line. I don't care what the line is, Mark. It could be 10. I don't care. Yeah. I'm surprised it's only 7.5. Maybe I'm missing something.
I agree with that. That is, and I'm going to tell you what, Chris, you're talking about Vegas don't know what to do with the game. If you want a third game, I don't know why Detroit is only 3-point favorites over Chicago. I don't understand that. Something's not right there because I think Chicago stinks. So if you were looking for a third game besides Kansas City and Philly, I also would throw in Detroit probably.
I think Vegas feels like they're fading. Like Detroit's fading a little since Thanksgiving.
Okay.
But I'm with you. I think they're going to slap that team around and slap them around good. But again, the Baltimore game and the Kansas City game, you want to parlay two teams with the spreads. To me, that's how it should be, Mark. It should be Baltimore. It should be Kansas City. And we'll make you money. That's it. Remember, bet in game. Yeah, Pay attention to the lines during the game while the game's going on. You can feel it, right, Mark? I mean, you can feel when these teams are going.
Of course you can feel it.
Well, maybe not you, but I can. You can see it. You can sense it coming, right, Joe? I mean, so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right.
So betting game. And remember what I always tell you, bet because you want to, not because you need to. If you got a problem, there's plenty of outlets out there for you. Don't make gambling an issue. Go get some help if you need it. But these are the games we like this week. So Corso and CATONE was presented by CORSO Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm, CORSOLawGroup.com. Hey, get on, watch. All our shows are up for you on all the outlets to listen to. And when you get on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Give us that thumbs up. Get our notifications when you subscribe. And make sure you come back next Saturday, 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern. We're going to talk Patriots Kansas City preview. We're going to talk about what happened with Pittsburgh and see the state of the team. Celtics, Catone's comments. Anything you bring to the table, we will be ready. We are Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. See you next Saturday.
Now find Corso and Catone on AM 790, The Score, iHeartRadio, iTunes, wherever you podcast. Or subscribe to the YouTube channel and catch the chaos every Saturday at noon.